Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for a special interview. While this interview was going to have taken place in all of the craziness at San Diego Comic Con 2023, I have now been blessed with the opportunity remotely to interview the very talented, multi-time Emmy-nominated composer, Joanne Higginbottom. Joanne, how you doing today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for rescheduling and doing this later in the week. I'll tell you, you probably got a better version of me actually, because Comic Con was crazy.
Yes, indeed. And folks, I just want everybody to know, while there had been concerned about Comic Con because of the SAG strike and what that presence would do to Comic Con, which in fact we do stand in solidarity with our friends, our brothers and sisters in SAG, and also of the Writers Guild as well too. That Comic Con by no means lost any steam because there was tons of other independent artists and comic book artists in terms of music. I mean, just the frame of artistry across the board. And that brings us to one, Joanne, who is a composer that, without a doubt, you've heard her music. It's almost criminal if you don't know her work at this point. Yes, you see by the graphics that we will talk about Primal because there's something in specific we need to promote with that. But nonetheless, a lot of your favorite projects. I mean, one of mine, I have to say, which also, by the way, might as well just plug this too, it is and has been announced for a season 2 in Criminal Minds Evolution. But you can go to John Wick, you could go to Samurai Jack, you could go to The Public, you could go to Primal, you could go to Unicorn. It just goes, the list just keeps going and going. But Joanne, before we even talk about the work, San Diego Comic Con, a very exciting time of the year. You're no stranger, although you didn't show up in the annual behind the music panel, Supersonic, which you usually do, you know. But
I
if
know.
not, you'll catch you at WonderCon. But nonetheless, it was still was a very exciting and almost dream and a dream come true for you at all with talking about the Adult Swim Festival on the Green, which is an activation yet a concert each and every year you have to show up to, folks. If you don't know by now, also I feel very sorry for you. But for you, taking you to this moment, I saw your social media and I was there, and it was what a amazing time. But for you, it was even more special. Take me through your overall San Diego Comic Con 2023 experience, and ultimately to that dream come true moment at the Adult Swim Festival.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'd have loved to have done the panel. It happened to be on Thursday this year, and I wasn't due to go down to Comic Con till Friday, and we had such a busy week ahead of that. This time I have to miss it, but hopefully Rhapsody PR will have me back another year. I
Right
always say
on.
yes to those guys. And so yeah, let's think. So Unicorn came out earlier this year, and I've been working with Tyler Bates on that show for about a year now, and it is honestly one of the shows that I am the most proud of the music ever for. It's just the music is so epic and it's so thematic and melodic and it's so kind of classical and operatic too, which is great. It takes me back to my, I'm classically trained and went to the Royal Welsh Conservatoire of Music. So this is actually really one of the first times I've been able to go back to what everything I learned then and really, really use it in a score. So it was such an honor to do that with Genndy Tartakovsky, and we've worked with him, as you mentioned, on numerous shows before. So he trusts us to just go crazy with it. And since that music was written, I put it in the atmosphere, let's say, where I had said out loud to a couple of people, I just want to see this score live. Like, because it was, of course, when we're writing, all of our instruments are electronic, it's all sample based. So I'd never heard a real violin, a real but group of people perform it. So
Yeah.
and I don't know, karma or something. The next, I was telling some people, and within a month or two, Adult Swim got in touch and said, "How do you feel about doing some of this music live at Comic Con?" And it's, I mean, honestly, performing at Comic Con and performing at the Hollywood Bowl would literally be like the top two on my list. So they were wonderful to work with. They gave us a really great budget, which means we got like a pretty decent size orchestra there. Um, we did the whole first episode of Unicorn Warriors Eternal, and they played the score as it is written for the show to picture, which is really lovely seeing it that way. It's such a treat for the audience too, and really gives them a glimpse of how much effort and time we put into all the minute details to hit all the cuts and things. And then, of course, with mine and Tyler's background being more in performing with bands and, rocking out, there was no way we weren't getting up on that stage. So, as part of sort of an encore, for lack of a better word, after Unicorn finished playing and the credits rolled, Tyler and I strolled up and performed 2 tracks from Primal and 1 track from Samurai Jack, like some of my favorite pieces from over the last few years. And hopefully you were there. Hopefully rocked it on stage.
Yep. And listen, I mean, like, I'm not saying it just because you're here, but like, there's so much to do at Comic-Con. And when I think about the 2 things I really, really enjoy, it's always the Adult Swim activation. So at the Adult Swim Festival and the IMDb boat, which happens to be 2 things that are outside of the convention, behind the convention. And if it ain't the scenic views, is absolutely what both of these activations always deliver. And this was a treat this year. And I hope folks who sometimes get stuck in the front of the convention start to realize that the real party, the real fun is behind it. And this year was truly, truly special. And another thing which I really do love in speaking to composers is really just that humble beginning and how passionate they are about their work. And I think a lot of consumers of media, whether it's television, animation, or film, are still grabbing upon this importance of what music does to projects. And I think when you see something in person, it's like when most people see their artists and they're like, oh, the concerts are so much better than the CDs and whatever it may be. But I think also too, when you hear the scores, when you hear soundtracks, when you get to hear it a concert and played with these instruments, I think just it changes people in a way that what you already knew your entire life, that more and more folks realize how important the music is to these projects. And I say that all to say is Comic-Con is sometimes going at a very rapid speed, and to look around at folks having a lot of fun, a lot of folks you can just see just stop for a minute. It's like almost the world stood still for them because they just realized that they were witnessing something so special, so energetic, so electric, that I think it's why I always want to make sure I take my time to speak with a composer, but I also try to echo this message in terms of just realizing how important music is. And I just thank you again for having your time of your life, but also giving me the time of my life. It was so much fun. And this is why each and every year, the good folks at I can't think of the name of the PR company. You just mentioned them that always host these.
PR.
Yes. Each and every year, I'm there inside the press room because it's always really good stories to hear about. And I knew yours were going to be truly special. But now I want to really get into the gist of things. And let's go back to Tyler, because you too have been the tag team that the tag team duo that more folks should be talking about. Can you talk about really the moment when you two really connected, and just from that moment to now to this point in 2023, still, like you say, getting on stage, rocking out, but still putting out bangers and bangers for soundtracks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've now been working with Tyler for 12 years. And so at his home, he has the upstairs studio and I have the downstairs studio, the kind of mirror images of each other. So his is jam packed full of guitars and mine is jam packed full of percussion. So that's really the ingredients that make us, I think, work very well together. And the fact that we've been doing this for 12 years at this point, and he feels like family. He feels like a friend. It's not like a colleague thing. I spend probably more time with him than I do with my husband, sadly. But we can musically finish each other's sentences and we know what each other's saying. And now there doesn't even have to be a dialogue a lot of the time. And again, what's great is I'm working on a lot of the rhythmical material and he'll be working on a lot of the honestly, a lot of the production. When you get that kind of attitude and that grunge, like that comes from Tyler, and he has taught me that, and I'm so appreciative of it. And that's now in my sound too. So when we're writing a show together, because we're linked, and network wise we're linked to with both of our computers, the sessions are just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I'll add some drums, pass it to him. He'll add some guitar, viol on top, let's say, pass it back to me. I'll write some horns and some brass back to him. He'll put some strings in it. And then we kind of get together at the end for the final production and see if there's anything else missing. And it's just, I'm so fortunate to have found him, of course. And he was already so much of an established name when I met him. And I'm very fortunate that, I mean, I worked my butt off, but he chose to let me in. And yeah, we're such a team, and we have projects that we're currently co-composing together.
Of
Primal's coming back
course.
for season 3. We have a feature coming up with Genndy. It'll be coming out next year. Actually, this morning, and I'm sorry if I look extremely tired and I'm on the caffeine.
Working.
Well, I was up at 5 a.m. this morning because we were recording our string orchestra in Scotland. So we recorded the Royal Scottish Orchestra in Glasgow. So of course, with the 8-hour time difference, the session in LA started at 5 a.m., which was 2 p.m. So 1 p.m. Anyway, so I was up very early. So this feels like bedtime, although it's just after lunchtime.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, and again, for us uneducated folks, we could only imagine just the craft and the process that goes into it. And you're talking about the hours of sleep that you're missing, but is it safe to say you're living your childhood dream? How fun does that sound to have a house that is essentially a studio where one person's upstairs, one person's downstairs? Like, people dream of, like, when they grow up to do something and have something like that. That sounds amazing.
It does, and it's interesting because we move at such a fast pace. Like every day there is a new deadline, because you're never working on one show at one time or one movie at one time. There's multiple things going on, and it's very easy to let life just kind of pass you by very quickly, and for these moments to just slip under the rug. And I do every so often, and especially Comic-Con was one of those. I had to stop myself and say, take a mental photograph of this, because 10-year-old Joanne would think you are the coolest thing ever. And you're too busy worrying about, is the tech working? Are the lights good? Are the in-ears loud enough? You get into all the details. Do you forget to breathe and think, this is really awesome?
Yeah. I really, and, like, there's a lot of fantastic composers, and I don't want to devalue anybody I've ever spoke to in the past, but what I really love about what you and Tyler put together is you tell stories, even if there wasn't anything to watch. You listen, and you can have a sense of just a real movie or a television episode structure. There's the soft beginnings, or sometimes it's brutal in the beginning, but you get all of it, and you feel it, and it's emotional at times, especially with Primal. That show is by all means brutal, but there's a lot of heart, and you just go all over the place in it.
It's heartbreaking, that show.
Yes, indeed. And I'm just wondering, when that's your job, and sure, there's folks that throw a scorn to it because if it's action, you want something a little bit upbeat. If it's horror, certain sounds and certain elements of it to really elevate certain tropes. But for something like this, very unconventional, this by all means, folks, go check out Prime. It's on Adult Swim, where you can catch it on Mats, and as you said, season 3 is coming. We'll talk about the vinyl in a second. When it's your job, and you're going to go on a ride, and you're the mad scientist of this ride, how do you balance out, like, your mind and your heart in something like this without it ever getting too heavy for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it does absolutely sometimes. And the best music comes when you put your full self into it. And I will say that very, very first episode of Primal, when both the dinosaur and Spear lose their families, like especially when it happened to Spear, and he watched it and he tried to save them. And then when he's drawing the murals on the wall and he walks up that cliff,
Yeah,
you have to put yourself in those shoes. And it can be dark. It can be totally dark for a while, but I guess as a creative, you put yourself there because it's worth it for the art form. I think it's psychologically knowing yourself and knowing how to get home and how to get out of that and not bringing it into your personal life. For me, I'm a little bit of a gym freak. And one of the reasons I have become very crazy with fitness is because that what happens is I get home from the studio and it's the first thing that I do. I'll work out. And whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, doing exercise takes me out of my work brain, and it's kind of like the bookend of the work day, and I'm back to being Joanne again and not Joanne who's writing this cue that's full of gunshots in John Wick at the moment, you know. So I think it's for everyone, it's probably finding that thing that can take you back to your reality. But absolutely, and even when it's not just emotional, it's just fatiguing, like working on the Hobbs and Shaw movies, for example, and John Wick. John Wick, there's so many gunshots. Hobbs and Shaw, it's all car screeches, car engines. And, you know, you probably spend the first 45 minutes writing with the sound effects on and the dialogue, and your ears just start physically
Mm.
hurting sometimes. So you got to turn it down and down and down until it's off, kind of just right to the cut for a while, and then bring it back in slowly, just so that you honestly don't hurt your ears too.
Yeah. I just, again, I just always try to tip my hat and, arms wide for any bit of emotional energy transference I could give to composers, because like music is a lot of our safe place. And when your music is your job, and at times, yes, you could be a fan of your work, but again, in something like Primal, you're going on such an emotional roller coaster. It's almost something you can almost retreat from at times, just because you know what it contains in it.
Yeah.
Which is, I just could never imagine. I just could never imagine. There's never been a point in my life where I was like, I don't want music. I don't want that. And
What I always say is interesting with ours is that it's the only form of music that's written to technically not be listened to. Although people do stream scores and listen to them, our
all
job
the
is
time.
really to create for the scene, and the initial job is to create sort of a psychological effect in that scene. Are we feeling scared? Are we feeling emotional?
Hmm.
Are we falling in love? Are we laughing? And music can absolutely tip it so that that gesture is achieved. So that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's very stimulating, and in all of the positive ways. You talk about working out. I think scores are some of the best soundtracks to listen to in the gym. I think that if you
Yeah.
don't have the, like, we consume television and movies all the time, but like if you don't have or such a routine or something that allows you to sit stationary to look at it, then listen to it. You absolutely can visualize a lot of what's happening by the music. I mean, that's what a good
Mhm.
composer does, but like, that's, and ultimately that's the job, I feel, as well too.
Yeah,
Um,
and the best example of everything that we do is Primal of that. There's no dialogue in that show. So he can't say, "I feel upset," or "I'm
yeah,
angry, or "I'm hungry, I'm gonna go kill this pig and eat it." Like,
yeah,
everything is amazing facial expressions by Genndy and the team,
yeah,
plus, what musically, like, what is he saying? What is he thinking right now? And, like, when he's drawing on the wall, that could just be him drawing on the wall, or it can be, "Oh my god, my life is over.
yep,
I'm going to commit suicide." It can quite literally be that.
yep. I will say too, you're also surrounded by good company. You mentioned your partner earlier, in Cody, who at this rate now, I mean, like everywhere you go, you're just around brilliant people, including yourself, Cody, who you talked about what you need, or the tools you need to equip in terms of composing, and you talk about writing and having a feel for the script. Well, we know he's a screenwriter himself.
Mhm.
What are those? And y'all obviously have worked on a project together. What are those type of conversations like in terms of how do you affect his writing? How does his writing affect your composing?
That's a great question. I think one of the hardest working relationships is working with someone you're so close to. I mean, it's my husband, and we, get into bed every night, and we have to know when to turn that off, and it's out
Yeah.
of work mode and back into marriage mode. But so Cody wrote a short horror film and shot it last year, won a ton of awards in all the horror festivals. I'm so proud of him. It's such a
Yeah.
wonderful film. And right now he's working on the feature. Now, of course, every single day I come home, he tells me every detail about the scene that he's been working on that day. And I'm so proud of him, and can only try and offer an opinion before he goes out to his other writer buddies and gets advice.
Mm.
But what's really cool working, of course, so closely with like my husband is that we've done it before in stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy, where we write some music and they shoot to it on set.
Yeah.
But just to beat that one more time, I got it with Cody. I actually write while he's writing. When we first started dating and I was watching him write, I realized if he's working on horror or action, he plays soundtracks while he's writing to get in that mood. And of course, I don't, just my own ego, I don't want him to be influenced by someone else's score and write in a certain direction because of how that's making him feel. So because I know so many of the details of the things that he's writing, I will actually write conceptual music as he's writing the scene. So I'll usually give him like a 15-minute suite, and it can go from anything from the more eerie atmospheric stuff to more like fast paced for a few minutes, and he'll have it on repeat for days and he'll be writing to that. And it's really cool because then when we got to shoot and we got to go into post-production, some of the music was already written, and it was really just reconfiguring it exactly to the scene. It was really cool to just start the collaborative process so early.
That gives me chills. That's amazing. If I would end the interview right now if I didn't have like two more important questions. That is amazing. Oh, I'm going to listen back to that a couple of times. That right there is artistry at its best. I've never heard a story as such, but I was very intrigued. I was very intrigued, and I had no clue you would deliver an answer like that. I'm almost lost the words here. I guess we got to talk about Criminal Minds really quick because beyond the work, for the return of this very popular series, I think it's safe to say that you're also a fan of the show as well too. So how do you balance such a resurgence of a very popular show, moving to another platform here at Paramount Plus, your fandom, and then obviously, you know, pulling from some of the original work, but also really making it his own? Because by all means, I love Criminal Minds, and I swear this isn't biased. By all means, this was like a fresh new feel,
Good.
but really carrying everything that we loved about it. It was the biggest step forward in a franchise, and paying homage to what had come, but obviously taking a huge step forward and now getting excited for season 2. But for you, because it's work to an extent, but also fandom, how did you work this out? How did you step into the project?
Yeah, I mean, I got to admit, when we got this project, it was one of the most excited I'd ever been to hear, yes from our agents. Like, we got Criminal Minds, like that's huge. And it's very, very cool when you get to share that news with family and friends. And my husband's mom my mother-in-law is the biggest Criminal Minds fan you've ever met. So she's immediately asking me, is this character coming back? Is this character? I can't say anything. I'm working on it for 6 months before you're going to see it, but I can't say anything. But I think with a lot of that stuff, and this worked with Samurai Jack too, you do your research and you watch everything that you can and take in a lot of the themes they had before. And I don't even mean musically, I just mean emotional themes too. And then you just try very hard not to feel the pressure of it. And you have to just focus and do your own thing with it. This season of Criminal Minds was particularly cool because it was the first time they were ever doing a storyline that really arced over an entire season.
Yep.
Like one killer that they were going after. And there's individual kind of killers every episode. But prior, it had always just been the standalone episodes. Yep. So that if you catch them on a plane or in a hotel room, you can watch one and understand what's going on, which is one of the reasons the show works so well. But I was intrigued by that going into the season, because when you have reoccurring characters like that, you get to write themes for them. And then slowly over the season, you get to develop those themes, whether in Criminal Minds, he was getting closer and closer to getting caught towards the end of the season. So he was getting more scared. He was getting more desperate. And musically, we could do that with him among the other characters too. So I love doing that.
I haven't even thought of it that way. Huh. Yeah, I'm sure your mother-in-law was like, "Is Reed coming back? Is Reed coming back?" Yes, we all want to know, is Reed coming back. So we'll see what happens.
That was the biggest question.
And I could probably talk about this forever, but the way they left this season off definitely leaves a lot of doors open. But good news is that you'll be back next season, which is all that matters right now.
Yeah, and as soon as we figure out these strikes, it's going to be I mean, we also actually halted production when they started. So the second the production studios can figure their shit out, if I can allowed to say, then we will get straight back to it on Criminal Minds.
Damn right. Let's get our writers and let's get our actors paid. And the most important thing of today's interview is talking about the Primal double vinyl soundtrack, which pre-orders are available right now. This one's special here. And with that, because the news went out during Comic Con, because as if there wasn't more reasons to spend money, here you go now with pre-orders available, just at an all-time high. Again, being at Comic Con, something you have, you're not a stranger of having that moment at the concert. Now having the double vinyl soundtrack being released for Primal season 3 coming. At this point now, you talked about taking a moment for yourself. What was those other moments during Comic-Con where you just got to just chill or relax and it wasn't just just actively working? What did you do for fun? Did you walk the floor? Did you go to any panels? Did you buy anything? What was it like for you?
I got to admit, don't get me wrong, the whole thing was fun, but that I did not have time to like I didn't do anything there. But so I got there Friday evening late because actually because we were spotting a movie the whole of Friday back in LA, drove to San Diego. So I woke up 8 a.m. on Saturday morning and went straight to rehearsal. What was so impressive is that I came with the scored parts and I met 35 musicians on the stage and we had 2 hours to rehearse. This is the first time any of them had ever seen or heard that music. So we put it on the stand and we rehearsed for 2 hours. Then we all went away, came back at 6:15 and did the show. So what was cool is I did a little press in the day, got some lunch and walked around, and seeing the costumes is always amazing.
Yeah.
I will say it really pulls at my heartstrings and makes all this worthwhile when you see someone dressed as a character from your show. I saw a couple of Melindas there from Unicorn and one I saw one spear. And I just think when people put that much effort into something that you have put that much effort into, it really rings home. It's great. So honestly, the first time I think I relaxed was about an hour after the show when we opened a bottle of champagne and said, "Wow, that was incredible."
Hey, you got to take it any way you can. And I love the testimony here because again, so many folks were worried about what would Comic Con be this year, and I think
Me too.
you spoke about it. And the magic word here is community. Folks come together, and we're going to make sure that we appreciate, show love, and support the fandoms one way or another. It's just a matter of the studios paying our writers and paying our actors so that we can have Comic Con and its entirety. But if it goes longer, then so be it, because they got to make sure they get this right. But by
Yeah,
all means, it was still a lot of fun. And
it
while it
was.
was much different, it was definitely fulfilling to the utmost. It was
It
so
was,
much fun
and what
this
I
year.
heard from people that seemed really cool is that obviously they're normally kind of chasing and queuing to go to the big actors panels, like the Avengers panel and all these,
Mhm.
especially the Marvel stuff. And this time, I heard it from multiple people. They were seeing things that they wouldn't normally have seen, and they
Yep.
went to like a board game like convention part of it, and they
Yep.
saw all these amazing new games that people had created and people playing them live. And even coming to our show, I think more people came to the Adult Swim part
Yep.
because there wasn't as much stuff going on in the convention center this year. So I'm grateful that we had a full crowd. It was great.
Yep. That is correct. So, Joanne, I don't want to get you in any trouble here, but you mentioned about working this morning, and work probably isn't in as we get a glimpse of the mini studio you're in now
Oh, I lost you.
that you can talk about that we should be excited for, and maybe coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously there's Primal season 3. That one's announced. That's good. And actually I can talk about the project that we were doing this morning. So I'm working with Genndy Tartakovsky again, and I'm co-composing with Tyler Bates again. And we are doing an animated feature with Sony Animation, and it's called Fixed. And
Okay.
it's Idris Alba stars in it and a bunch of other fantastic actors. And it is about a dog who is about to get fixed. So I had to, yeah, I learned what that term means. And it is an R-rated comedy, which is very
Oh,
new
of
for
course
Gen
it
Z.
is.
And it is hilarious. It is so funny. So we've spent the last few months working on that score, and it's really not what you would expect, actually, for that kind of movie. We've really pushed the barriers and done something really unique and cool. And yeah, this morning we recorded a string orchestra in Glasgow for all of the strings on the score. So we're going to be wrapped on that within the month, and then
Yeah.
hopefully everything's to be determined right now with the strikes and things, but I think early next year should be the theatrical release.
All right. I am excited for that.
So
You
funny,
said
you gotta check it
it's
out.
not what you think it is. Yeah, that's been the case for Unicorn. That's been the case for
Yeah.
Primal. It's just anything you're attached to, expect the unexpected, because you just don't know. I can't wait to check out Fix. And with that being said, thank you so very much for your time. Yeah, I'm glad that we did get to have the virtual meet, because obviously get 30 minutes to talk to you. Probably had 5 or 10 minutes, and I would have felt so bad because I knew you would have had time. You needed time to probably rest and really take in all the emotions, and that's fine. But then that means I'll probably see you very soon. WonderCon, you seem to be a regular there, and then back at San Diego next year once again, because I will
Hopefully.
definitely be hitting up the folks if you ain't in that behind the music panel next year. Like get one of my favorites in there, okay? But
I appreciate it.
absolutely. But Joanne, it's been a pleasure. And folks, you make sure you keep an eye out for her work. Keep an eye out for Primal season 3. And as I mentioned, you can get that Primal double vinyl soundtrack. That is on that you can pre-order that right now. That will be in the description below. Joanne, get some rest, but also get back to work because we need your music.
Oh, that's not even what I write. It was lovely to meet you. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for checking out this interview. We see you back for more content very soon.
Regulars.